and then we'll record. Here we go. We made it. Only 4 minutes late. So hopefully our friends and fans on Facebook haven't completely abandoned us. Slight technical issues going on. Okay, so I'm gonna give Facebook a minute to let people find us and check out what's going on. Okay, I just came off of crazy event week. I did 9 events last week. And I'm still standing.
Julie, I'm exhausted just listening to that.
I know. I mean, did you have an IV drip this weekend or what?
Swear to God, I think I don't know what I'm running on right now, but it is just like, and it was me personally that had 9 events. We actually had more than that for the store. So me personally did 9 events, but
Girl.
we had Jen Psaki. She was amazing. We did a offsite for Amanda and my boyfriend Carrie Elwes from Princess Bride. So we had a
One of
signing
the
with
many
him.
boyfriends, one of the many names.
One of my many boyfriends that I have in this
Yes,
industry.
one of the many names in Julie's black book.
My name dropping that I tend to do around here. So
He's
that was super fun.
Mainly my boyfriend.
Mainly Amanda's boyfriend. I don't know. You might have to fight our new employee, Chris. You might have to fight her because she actually had a script because she was a stunt woman. I didn't even know this about her. She was a stunt woman up in Hollywood for Universal. Super cool. She actually had the script, the Princess Bride script.
Really?
Yes.
Okay, that's very cool.
Very cool. And he signed it.
Okay, she wins.
You killed my father. Prepare to die.
Prepare to die. So anyway, so it was super fun. So to say the least, I haven't done a ton of reading. But I'll get back on that. So I don't know, Julia, since you went off screen, I have no idea where you're at on this. So
that's fine. I can go last. That's fine.
I think I don't know. I think the way I don't know. I have no idea. So it's gonna go Gabe, Andrea, Juliet, Amanda. I think you might have to let everybody screen share. So get everybody set up for that. And then we'll go. We'll see what y'all got for us this week.
I am ready when you are.
Ready yet?
Engaged.
Engaged.
Make it so number 1. So this is one of the favorites. A book by Thomas Lockley, who wrote a book for us a few years back called The African Samurai, which was about a soldier, a young man from Africa who ended up in Japan. And it's a real interesting, obviously a fish out of water experience, but it was back in the days. I can't quite recall, something probably like the 1600s or so, give or take. And was a really fascinating read because you're just kind of like this, again, fish out of water, and a really kind of interesting fact-laden, a fun read about a particular point in time in history, along with all the differences that existed back then. But this book focuses on a group of Japanese young men who came to America, led by a young 21-year-old who they called Christopher. Christopher apparently had some impact. He kept reinventing himself. He was considered a scientist of sorts. Sometimes he was considered a spy. But he was the young man who led this delegation of young Japanese men. It wasn't many of them, a dozen. And they sailed up the Thames and they met with the Queen. And they got there through a long voyage through Mexico, formerly New Spain. So they came up through North America, caught boats across the Atlantic. So it's a real, again, another fish out of water story, a piece of history that I pretty much can bet nobody on here knew about, because there's all these moments and really interesting characters and figures of history who, it's been a long time that we've chronicled these things. So there are a lot of interesting people out there yet to be discovered. And young man Christopher is I think a person of interest, and brought in the multicultural element. The other big part of this book is also it's 1588, so it's the age of exploration. So a big part of the book is just that. It is, being on the water, on sailboats, in storms, and crossing, like I said, through Mexico, on land and sea, navigating the globe, and into the great unknown. So it's the kind of thing that I really like. It's the kind of history that I enjoy. Good narrative nonfiction.
No, it's really good. Okay, I don't know my time periods, but it reminds me of, I just watched, did y'all watch on FX Shogun, the new Shogun series? So kind of reminds me of that same, if you like that, this sounds like it might be a little bit
Like
along
right
those
around,
lines.
yeah, because I think that was, I just remember like early 1600s.
I think so too. Yeah.
And this is
So
1588, so it's right, yeah.
right around that same time period. So if you like Shogun, you like that, this sounds like it might be something up your alley too. So, all right, Andrea. Don't forget to unmute yourself.
Sorry about that. When I have the screen, when it's not in full screen, it's hard to find where the unmute button is. That sounds fascinating, Gabe. I really had no idea that this is definitely little known history. It's
Yeah,
very
right.
cool.
Yep.
Yeah, you gotta love it. I am so excited to talk about Return to Blood, a Hannah Westerman thriller. This is the second in a series from Michael Bennett, whose debut thriller. He's a filmmaker, but his debut novel, Better the Blood, did really well across the board in the indies and including our beloved Warwicks. And so this is the second one, out tomorrow officially, but it's in the store, so you can run down right now. Get a copy. I love the the series look, to the covers, looking great. And this is starring Maori detective Hannah Westerman, as you can see from the the cover there. And in the first book, she was solving a crime that was close to home for her, involving a serial killer of Maori blood, who was definitely insane and trying to avenge past colonial depredations and horrors, but in the wrong way, of course. And she gave up her badge in that book, and returned home to just kind of recalibrate and figure out what she wanted to do. And what happens? She's back in her home country with her tribal affiliates, and her daughter discovers the bones of a woman in the dunes near the beach. And so she's back on the case, and it's just really beautiful writing, and you can't really go wrong with the pacing of these books. They're very cinematic, and that obviously, his film work definitely adds, just lends itself to this writing here. So, and I'm wondering if he's ever going to make, when he gets enough books in a series, I think like a limited series would be great on television,
I was just going to ask that. I was just wondering if that was in the works.
Yeah, I don't know yet. I should ask the editor. This is from Atlantic Monthly, which is the sister press to Grove. And we're very excited about this. $27 hardcover. And I think that this is gonna sell all the way through the holidays and beyond. So
Perfect. Love it. Always need it's a good summer read, that fast-paced thriller thing. We like those during the summer too.
Yeah.
All right,
and
Julia.
set in in a foreign country, the dunes of New Zealand. So that's cool.
Oh, I love that. Yeah. Especially I mean, I love Australia, but New Zealand is just that's so my Lord of the Rings, atmospheric-ish. All right, Julia, rescue me.
Okay, I'm here. Gabe and I had similar thoughts today because my book
Oh.
is Paradise of the Dam, the true story of an obsessive quest for El Dorado and the legendary city of gold. So this is by Keith Thompson. This is about Sir Walter Raleigh, who was sort of the was he a conquistador? I don't know if you can call him that since he was English, but he was the sort of colonialist, most sort of excited slash obsessed with the city of El Dorado, and this in truly thriller fashion, even though it's true. This is written like a thriller. It takes you through the history of Raleigh's attempts to find El Dorado. Of course, this like Englishman arrives in South America, and it's, you know, there's crocodiles, or Central America, and there's like crocodiles and there's scorpions and there's all these things that you don't have to deal with in the UK or England. And so just a fun one of those, like, I don't know, I love a good nonfiction book that feels like fiction as you're reading it. And it's one of those that sort of, it takes you through. It's a fast read, it's a fun read. You'll learn a thing or two. And then I think it's a really fun one.
Yeah, because I think there's a lot of people that like, I can't think of oh, it slipped my mind who there's a fiction writer that writes kind of those adventure books, and I can't think of what they are. I'll look it up after we get to the next one, but kind of reminds me of that, only nonfiction.
Yeah. And I feel like there's so many that I do love, but like the Lost City of the Monkey God by Douglas Preston or whatever, that's like, or there was one about chasing Captain Cook's, like doing Captain Cook's, I forget what it was called because I read it when I lived in the UK and it had a different title than in the US. But those ones are like someone now sort of like doing the thing.
Right.
And I kind of like that this is a history. Like, it's not, nobody is trying to search for El Dorado in this book that's like alive right now.
Right.
Just,
well, but what's also crazy in both yours and Gabe's book, when you think about, I mean, when you think about what they didn't have and were able to navigate the globe the way that they were, it's crazy. They just like, they got on a ship and just like, we're like, let's go. You know?
I mean, yeah, I'm not sure
what
what mental health issue we might diagnose them with nowadays, but clearly something was happening.
Something was happening. Because it's just, you know, it's like, I mean, I get the stars, I get the sextant, I get all that stuff, but it's just like, it's a lot of faith going on and just like heading out into the.
And imagine seeing a crocodile having never seen one before. Like, I'm sorry, I won't even go to Florida because there's alligators everywhere. Like,
what is that?
Yeah, and I know what they look like.
Yeah,
right.
you know, it is true that the obsessional personalities amongst us are those folks were the people that like pushed us forward.
Right.
And I think there might be like a modern day diagnosis of ADHD.
Right.
You know,
There's
or something like that.
Restless spirits. Yeah.
Restless spirit. But I mean, like Shackleton and all those guys that wanted to go to the Arctic. It's like, what? Okay. Yeah. Anyways. All right, Gabe, what's your next one? I'll think of that, who I'm thinking of because it wasn't Douglas Preston, but anyways, I'll be Googling. I'll be Googling while you're talking, Gabe.
Do that. Oh, crud. You went away. Sorry. What?
What's happening?
I can't get you to full screen.
Well, we see. I hope this finds you well is what we're looking at.
Oh, are you looking at? Oh, I'm sharing already. Okay.
But you're sharing the Edelweiss page, not your other thing.
Let me try that again. I mean, it works out the same actually.
Yeah,
But yeah, I hope this finds you well.
there you go. That's it.
Is what I want to show you. So this is our lead read. We've talked about our lead read. It's our in-house favorite, or most popular. And they're always interesting books. They're always, pretty accessible, readable, for the most part. We haven't really picked anything that's outrageous. And I think this is one of those books that has a broad readership. It is an office novel. I don't think we've had a good office novel since Joshua Ferris, and then we came to the end, which was like 2006 or something, almost 20 years ago. A book that was really well received, that skewered the work, the office site, and launched a career. So in this story, our protagonist, excuse me, is a young woman who's working she's in an office. Jolene has an office job. She's not particularly engaged. She's not particularly loving it. She doesn't really want to interact with her colleagues in the office. I'm here to work. I'm leaving. She suffers no fool, so she finds a lot of her colleagues lazy and finds them a little bit tiresome and incompetent. So she's got a lot of complaints. She got a lot of complaints. And
I wonder what that sounds like.
so she starts right. So she starts pulling things. So she starts pulling the stunt where she starts writing emails. And then she writes little subversive notes at the bottom of emails, but she colors them in white so that they can't be seen, but they're in the email. And then, of course, one day you do the best you can to be nefarious, but sometimes you just slip. Even an evil genius will slip, and the email gets through, and the person reads the snark, and she gets called up to HR, and Cliff, the more than hunky HR guy, who obviously is off limits, but apparently awful tasty to Nadine, Jolene, sets her up. So she's got to get, you got to get punished, right? So she's got to do her thing, and she's got to go through online classes and harassment policies and things like that for her postscripts. And when Cliff resets up, and then she's got like serious restrictions on her emails, obviously, because she can't be trusted. But in the mix-up, Cliff hits the wrong button, and unfortunately for the company, but fortunately for Jolene, she now has access to everybody's emails. So she knows what everybody's thinking about. She sees people, who write a private email to their family, what's going on in people's homes. She finds out what's happening in their lives. She finds out it gives her a leg up on work. So she starts cannibalizing ideas. She starts actually to even get along with her coworkers, because she starts to understand that these people are human beings and they have their own trials and tribulations. But it's a book that is very funny. It's a book where we see this person evolve and grow, and the situation's a little bit ridiculous. But I think it works. I really thought that it's a book that has got a really strong character, and I think it's going to be a fun book to sell.
Oh my God, it sounds hilarious. And I mean, I kind of want to start doing it.
I mean, I know you never thought of that, but it's like and it's there.
Oh my God. It's just like, because I mean, I watch on, I'm sure we all do on like, the show, there's this one guy who like types what he's really thinking when he's sending like work emails. It's hilarious. So it's just like, oh my God. I love that. That sounds like a super fun book. All right, Andrea. Oh, by the way, I was thinking of sorry, just real quick. It was Wilbur Smith is who I was thinking of.
Harper author.
Yeah.
Oh,
And so
yeah.
he's who I was thinking of as far as like a really good adventure, old school adventure writing, fiction writing. Okay, sorry, Andrew.
No, it's quite all right. I forgot to mention that Nancy Warwick is a huge fan of the first Michael Bennett Hannah Westerman thriller. So
Okay.
and had that in her staff picks forever. And she really sells a lot of books with her recommendations.
Yes, she does.
She does. So that's a good thing. I want to talk about A Good Life by Virginie Grimaldi. This is a Europa Editions book, and a June Indie Next pick. It is out officially May 28th, but there is no hard and fast street date, and you do have stock like on the shelves right now.
Okay.
And this is a novel of two sisters who come together. They were close as youngsters and really had to bond after the tragic departure from the planet of both of their parents. I'm not going to tell you what happened, because that's part of the drama and trauma of this story as it wends along. But they've lost touch really with each other, but have to come back together to clean out their beloved grandmother's house after she dies. And she was a force in their life and really helped them get through their childhood after having to move in with their aunt and uncle, who are not the greatest people. You'll find out once you get into this book just how odious and cold they are, but not overly written. That's what I love about Grimaldi's writing. She's pretty subtle. She knows how to write with restraint, but also develop her characters very well. The Sign of a Master. Now listen, since 2015, Grimaldi has written 15 novels, okay?
What?
And they've all been bestsellers in France and on the continent. She's just, I don't think she sleeps. It's like Joyce Carol Oates or something, right? But this one has been reviewed quite widely and favorably, and a lot of the reviewers say that they think this is her strongest work, and Europa thinks so too. And it was a big push for them to get the word out on A Good Life. And so this like we learn stuff about like unexpected revelations, secrets coming to light as the two have to work to clean out their grandma's place. And there's great descriptions of natural beauty. And the sisters slowly come together and like grow closer again. I think this is really a beautiful book. And obviously indie booksellers believe the same thing, as it is an Indie Next pick for June. And this was translated by a woman named Hildegard Searle, who translates she translated Freshwater for Flowers, which was a big hit at, and was a big hit at Warwick's and across the indie landscape. And so like that you're in the hands of a good translator here. She also did A Winter's Promise, which is the beginning of a young adult fantasy series that has done very well for us. So and there you go. That's A Good Life, $28 hardcover from Europa Editions.
Is that her first one that Europa's brought, or have all of hers been translated to the US?
Not all of them, but
Okay.
there are a few that, let's see. It's been a while.
Okay.
So,
Okay, just wondering if people,
Yeah.
because if they like this, if they have access to get some of her backlist. So
yeah,
All
let
right.
me I need to look and just see. I don't have
No.
like
that's fine. People
in
are
my
people
notes
are
right now.
resourceful. They're resourceful. They got the googly search they could do.
Yeah, let me know. Let me know though. If somebody wants to let me know if they need help, I can
All
help.
right. Perfect. All right, Julia, what do you got for us?
Okay, my next one is another fun history, but a different kind of history. This is called The Cleopatras, the Forgotten Queens of Egypt. And this is a really, I think just a fascinating history of basically, we all think of Cleopatra as a single person, a single woman, who lived, Mark Antony and Caesar and all those, Shakespearean sort of play people. But there were actually 7 Cleopatras that led Egypt at various times throughout Egyptian history. And one of my favorite sort of tidbits about the Cleopatra we think of when we're thinking of Cleopatra is that she lived closer to the invention of the iPhone than she did to the building of the pyramids. So I think people forget how long the Egyptian Empire actually was around for. Yeah.
That's
And so
interesting.
isn't that fascinating?
Yeah.
And so this looks at the 7 different Cleopatras and the place that they held within Egyptian society, the way that they were viewed by regular Egyptians. They were sort of deified in many ways, and sort of looks at these different women and how they ruled Egypt when they did rule Egypt. I think for people, it's also really readable history, and I as a historian, as a person with a history degree, just really appreciates any time someone writes a readable history, because I suffered through many in college that weren't readable. And so it's very nice when they are. Anyway, so yeah, the Cleopatras, this is from the same author who did a couple of years ago a book called The Persians, which was a really big hit, historical, also a history of the Persians. So he's got a track record with indie book sales and indie book customers. People really love reading that book. And this one, no different. I think fascinating, and a history that I think a lot of people aren't very familiar with. So
For sure. I didn't know there was more than one Cleopatra.
I know.
7. 7 of them.
Yep.
But yeah, but that's the interesting. I mean, and fascinating that, like you said, that she was closer to the eye than when the pyramids were. I mean, that's the one that we know of, and she's pretty ancient too. So super fascinating.
Yeah.
That whole world, just like, that's always been fascinating. So Diane's on here saying that this might be a good companion with Stacy Schiff's book Cleopatra. So
Indeed, I agree, Diane. I love that Cleopatra book.
little
That's a great
companion
one.
piece going.
Yeah.
And Andrea, you were talking that Valerie Perrin, so this is her debut coming out.
Yeah, I was just mistaking Valerie Perrin, who wrote Freshwater for Flowers. She's got several out, but this is Grimaldi's English debut. So
Perfect. Okay.
sorry
Sounds
about
good.
that.
Nope, that's okay though. We just have other things to look forward to instead of backward. So that's okay too. All right, we got a lightning round coming. So Gabe, start us off. If you want. Oh, I'm going to start singing. You better watch out. I might start singing right now.
So, this is perfect lightning round material. It's Michael McDonald. What a Fool Believes. If you get the reference, you're too old.
Yep.
This was late 70s. I was in my prime.
You and me, baby.
Driving home from work.
I had a convertible.
Oh, I forgot you were from TV. I grew up in the hood. So
Driving through the hoods, baby.
I was on a beater. But my sound system was second to none. So this is Michael McDonald. If you know who I'm talking about, then this is a book for you. If you don't, your mom or dad will love it, or your uncle. If you're way old, your kids. I mean, if your mom's 88. Yeah, this is it. This is Michael McDonald's story. He had an interesting life. He came from misery, to Hollywood, to the bright lights. He was a sessions musician. He was a background vocalist. Worked his way I didn't know he was with Steely Dan until I read this.
I didn't know that either.
And then obviously moved in with the Doobie Brothers to give them their secondary sound. I guess it's kind of like the Van Halen, Van Hagar thing. So he came in with that groove. And then I just remember a point in the early 80s, and I've got satellite radio in my car, and you just can't escape. Like Michael McDonald was duetting with everybody. He was on, and I was like listening to Christopher Cross, Ride Like the Wind on Yacht Rock or one of those. And I'm like, I forgot, is that Michael McDonald? And then you listen to something else, it's like, is that Michael McDonald in the background? So after he made it, he was still making bucks, singing backgrounds and, little 1-day sessions, half-day sessions, making a ton of money probably. But he also had some downs. He did suffer from alcohol and drug addiction and finding himself a new person and reinventing himself. And I think what struck me the most is a comment he makes that there's little correlation between what you think you deserve and what you get in life. So it's a pretty fact hard hitting kind of a book. Also, back in the late 80s, I remember reading some books by this guy Paul Reiser on couplehood and fatherhood that were hilarious. He was on that show, whatever it was called, that was quite popular at the time, and he is
Mad About You.
Mad About You.
Yeah.
The youngin tells me. I saw it when it was first run, Julia. Mad About You. Yeah. And
I'm older than you think I am, Gabe.
Yeah. That is, yeah. So, Paul Reiser, he was a stand-up comedian. He had the sitcom. He did some movies. He's a very, very funny guy. He's got a very funny point of view. And he is a friend of Michael McDonald. So he's the co-author on this book. So I just remember how enjoyable his books were back in the day. He's got a good voice. And I think this is Michael McDonald's voice coming interpreted, translated by Paul Reiser. So it's also quite a funny book. He doesn't take himself too seriously. So there's an audience. Sorry, I didn't mean to go so long.
I love it. No, because it's so good, but it just brought up all kinds of memories. But Michael McDonald also is a very wonderful gentleman too. So there's a thing, and you've got to Google. I'm giving Google lots of props today. There was this young girl who is, young, like in her early teens, is a Michael McDonald fan. And so she wrote him fan letters and stuff. And he actually met her like backstage. He's just a lovely guy, just a lovely, cute. So it was all over the internet for a while. You could find a little scene for it, but it's just like she's crying. It's just like he's just darling. So good guy.
But also, like, don't underestimate the resurgence of yacht rock. I took my mom to a concert at the Hollywood Bowl of like Loggins and Messina, and there was like a few others. Christopher Cross was definitely there, and she was like, Julia, everyone's gonna be my age. I hope it's okay that they're all gonna be in their 60s. And I was like, Mom, I want you to look around at all the people my age in captain's hats. They're like, it's a thing. We love it. So
I love
that. There you go.
Everybody listens to it. I listen to stuff my kids listen to, and I'm like, yeah, they grew up with that in the background,
Exactly.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you what, now, just like, looking at the title, I am going to have that song as an earworm for like a couple of days now in my head. I can hear him singing it in his falsetto.
Oh my God, Amanda's talking in the chat. There's a LA-based group called Yachtly Crew.
Yachtly Crew.
Oh my God, that is hilarious.
They play the casino circuit and stuff down here.
That's good.
I love it. All right, Andrea, what do you got for lightning round?
I've got a middle grade reader, ages 9 to 12, but I personally think that this has young adult and adult crossover because it's written so well. The Wildcat Behind Glass. This is from a Greek woman, and she wrote it in the 60s, and there hasn't been a new English translation for 50 years, but it was one of those international bestsellers. It's a classic, and it's so nice to see that Yonder, who is the children's imprint of Restless Books, has brought this back. It's set It's set in a Greek coastal town close to some islands where the family also has a little place, and they go in the summer. It's told from the point of view of our protagonist, Melia, and she and her sister and all their friends are hanging out. Their older cousin is he's the uncle figure, right? And he is a member of the Greek resistance, who's fighting against the rising fascist tide. They're just come into power in the 30s. So he's, the fascists and the cops are out to get their older cousin, and the wildcat behind glass is a stuffed wildcat in their grandfather's study that all the kids are obsessed with, and the stories that their cousin tells them about is that he comes alive at night and whatnot. This is in the mouth, back behind its teeth is where the resistance actually plants messages to be passed on to each other, because a lot of people visit their grandfather's, the grandfather, who's a historian and a book lover. So it's a house full of books, adventure stories and whatnot. And it's just a roaring good tale. It's so great. It's exciting. The kids are actively involved in trying to hide their cousin. He hides out in a abandoned tower. You can see that on the front cover, on the island during the summer, when they find out that he's being chased and will get thrown in prison. So he's got to get smuggled off the island and out across the border to escape retribution. And there's pernicious, fascists and kids, tattletale kids who are in alignment with their rich fascist parents, so there's all this stuff. It's got everything. And it is so beautifully written. And unfortunately it's rather timely, considering our current historical moment, but it's just a perfect time for this book to come back, and the translation's great. It won a bunch of international prizes, as well as a few American prizes as well, back in the day. And I just think this is a great read. And yeah, I mean, it's my favorite kids book that I've read in decades, basically. I just think it's
Wow.
really great. Yeah.
That's saying something, because you have a lot of really good kids books that you talk about. So
Yeah,
that's
I
what you say, you
really,
got a lot of
this is a
decades to
special
draw.
book. What, Gabe?
I thought she was going to say you have a lot of decades to draw from.
Well, there is that. I mean, geezerhood or geezerdom is in full effect in my world.
I'm embracing it with all my heart.
What's the
Knowledge.
alternative? Okay,
Knowledge.
I'm upright. I'm happy about that.
All this knowledge we glean, man.
Love it. All right, Julia, take us home.
Okay. I have a fun little book for my last one. It's called Queer Villains of Myth and Legend, a revelry of queer outlaws, rogues and outlaws through the ages.
Love it.
So this is a little gifty size book. There is a queer heroes book that goes along with it, but I am partial to gay people behaving badly. So I really love this. I think it's a nice little, I don't know, you don't really give gifts for Pride Month, but I think it's a good little gifty book for someone who just needs to, be more versed in queer people and their miscreants that exist among us in the most delightful of ways. So it's like I said, it's a smaller size, it's a smaller trim size, so it's kind of a handy little pocket book, and really fun.
Is that Dan Jones, the British history writer, who does all those big histories?
I believe so. Yep. British author currently living in New York. Yeah, yeah. And then he did, like I said, he did Queer Heroes of Myth and Legend for us last year. But this one I think is more fun than the heroes. I'm
Nope, we kind of lost you there for a second.
oh sorry. I'm partial to the villains, I said. So
I love the villains. We just because we just hosted Mona Awad again for Rouge, for the paperback of Rouge, and so she's teaches fairy tale, creative writing at Syracuse, but fairy tales and folklore and all that. And I mean, it's brutal. Some of the villains that are in some of that stuff,
Oh yeah.
Grimm it's pretty interesting. All right. Well, that was some good stuff. We got some good history to read, some good gifts. Those are good gifts to give for graduates, Father's Day, those kind of things too. So keep thinking gift giving. We got another busy week this week at Warwick's. We got lots of good authors coming. Swan Huntley, Amanda Iyer Ward, Amy Tan, Kevin Kwan. So, and we're doing a offsite for Terry Verts. So lots of fun stuff happening at Warwick's. So if you're in the area, come and see us. And otherwise, order those books from us too. So with that, happy reading, everybody. And even though next weekend is Memorial Day, you know us, we don't take a day off. So hopefully it won't just be me and Amanda. Hint, hint, y'all, but it might be. It might be. Some people actually have a life. But anyways, we'd love to have whoever's around to come on and talk books with us. And we'll see y'all next week. Bye.